Here's the actual worksheet. The worksheet's focusing on climate science, specifically greenhouse gases and greenhouse gas effect. You'll notice I put a lot of things in here in yellow. What I've done is I've done it slightly differently this time in that I'll give you a PowerPoint. So here's the PowerPoint. You'll notice that the PowerPoint has not a lot of green. So the minimum here is actually quite minimum. And there's quite a bit of the purple for the exemplary, the elaborate, the details. And then of course the yellow for complete. So you decide how much of this you'd like to go through. This is a resource. It's a resource that has a lot of information. You decide how much information that you want to go through. Okay? And what you're doing as you go through this is you're going through these resources, including the PowerPoint, which is listed here. And at the end of this, you're answering a bunch of questions. So the major question is here. Explain the greenhouse gas effect and why it's significant. And you can use any format you'd like to answer that question. You might want to use words, you might want to use a diagram and then copy it or take a photograph of it. You want to use sketch notes, which is what I normally use, which is a combination of diagrams and words, whatever you'd like to use. That's the major question. So they notice that's in green. And there's a bunch of other things. These are important pieces that you should be picking out of the videos, the simulations, the resources, the PowerPoint. They're important, and that's why I have highlighted them as separate questions. If you answer these questions, they'll really help you get a very complete answer to your major question. All right? So at the end of this, you'll notice there's a CO2 dataset instructions. So in the Google Classroom, you'll see a link to a Google Sheet, and then these are specific instructions on how to modify that Google Sheet. Since I have this open, I will quickly demonstrate as well how you'd manipulate it. So the first set of instructions tell you to highlight columns A and B. So to do that, you click on A, you hold the Shift button, you click on B, and then it says to click on the chart button icon. That inserts a chart. Then you want to scatter plot. You scroll down till you get to the scatter plot. Notice this, the numbers here, it goes from 0 to 500, but there's nothing between 0 and 300, so I want to get rid of that. So I'm going to go over here to Customize, and I'm going to go down here to Vertical Axis, and I want a minimum value of 300. Seems good. I'm going to make sure that I'm happy with the titles. I'm probably going to change this up title here. So now I can close the screen, and I'm going to make my chart bigger so I can actually make out some details. If I had a bigger screen, I can make it even bigger. And once I have this that I'm happy with, I can take this chart, I can copy it, and then I can paste it into the document. And I can use this to demonstrate a better understanding of how climate change, greenhouse gas effect, and greenhouse gases are related. So that's what this CO2 dataset instructions are. And you'll see that there's a group of questions associated with it. And these questions will help you get a more complete answer. I put this after the major question because I didn't want it to, kind of pollute the flow of the lesson. But really, you'd be doing the CO2 dataset instructions first and then answering your major question, which is the last thing. So one of the simulations I'm getting you to play with is this FET simulation, and you're going to be shining light photons at various greenhouse gases, and it's very straightforward to play with. You have the slider that allows you to turn it on or off, so I'm going to turn it all the way up. You have microwave, infrared, visible light, and ultraviolet lights, so you can play with any one of those. So let's say I'm playing with visible light. I hit the play button, and it'll start shooting photons at that particular greenhouse gas, in this case carbon monoxide. So in this simulation, you're going to play with all these different gases. Some are greenhouse gases, some are not, and you'll notice depending on which kind of light you use, you might see a different type of reaction. So you're going to note that and use that to help you get a better understanding of how greenhouse gases do what they do.